Teresa.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Lord, we come to you with a thankful heart. Guide us, help us, show us your will. Help us to glorify your kingdom. Guide our words and our heart, Lord. Just everything we say comes directly from you, not from us. Just Jesus Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Well, welcome back. I believe we are episode 5 now. I think we've done 5 of these. Today, we're going to, I'll be honest, I have a little less scripture today and a little more just personal experience and personal beliefs type thing with a little bit of scripture, but it does all come back full circle. But we're going to talk about the challenges of being a Christian police officer. And Jamie's going to talk a little bit about the challenges of being a police officer's wife, I guess. Got it figured out?
The best I can.
The best you can. So, do you want to start us or do you want me to start us?
Whatever you want to do.
I hate it when you do that. So, in the first episode, we touched on this a little bit. I didn't go, at least I don't think I did. It's been so long ago now. I don't think I went real in depth on it. But there are certain things that make it very challenging to be a Christian police officer. And sometimes people will say, you know, hey, is it hard being a cop who is a Christian? And I think that's the wrong question, really. And the reason I think that, and the reason that it should be the wrong question, is the question should really be, is it difficult being a Christian who is a cop? Not is it difficult being a cop who is a Christian? Because being a Christian is what should be first in our lives. Okay, just being a police officer, firefighter, paramedic / EMT, whatever it may be. That's a job that we do. Okay, a Christian is who you are, and your public safety job is what you do. So there's, in my opinion, there should be a very distinct difference in that. We, in public safety, we wear uniforms. Everybody knows that. Our department, we call them Class B uniforms for uniform of the day. We wear a traditional button-up, I don't really want to call it a dress style shirt. It's a uniform shirt, uniform pants. We just recently went to outer vest carriers, but we are very traditional in our uniform. And I know that there's a lot of places that have gone to like polo shirts or whatever with the tactical outer carriers and stuff, and it becomes even more laxed. But regardless, there is always some kind of standard, some kind of uniform with most departments, and that's fire departments, paramedics, EMTs, so on, that identify you as that officer or that firefighter. I think we should strive in our day-to-day lives to put on a show. That's the worst words I could think of. Not to put on a show, but we should strive to be very professional, be very godlike, be very loving, so that people can identify us as easily as Christians as they do in identifying us as police officers or firefighters or paramedics. And the only way that we can do that is by our actions, is to live biblically, to live according to the teachings of God and Jesus Christ. And we have to live that way so that it reflects on our daily life as that's who we are. So this is my personal experience, but I'm sure it happens a lot. In law enforcement, we often ask ourselves, or at least I do, and that question is, what am I doing? I'm doing this, but to what end? You know, am I even making a difference? I go out, I work 12-hour shifts, 80 hours a week, every 2 weeks, not a week, but 80 hours every 2 weeks. So we rotate, we have every other weekend off. But we go out, we do our job, and then you turn around and you turn on the news, and it's just nothing but negativity. And you just sit here. Sometimes it's kind of hard to not get heartbroken, because you just feel like, okay, I'm doing everything that I can, and the world still just seems to be going to crud, and I hate it. But
not only that, on a personal level, like when you're dealing with a specific individual on the street, and you're wanting to know your words, your actions. Is that changing them? Is that changing their view on life in a positive way? And I know you always look back, and sometimes you think, well, did I make a difference in that person's life? Did they change? Did they change from their bad ways to the good ways? And you have seen that, and I've seen that. Because we'll be out and about, and this is, years ago, like in the school districts, when you were in the school districts and you were dealing with the juveniles, make it, for instance, did you make a difference in their life? And some of those kids have come back to you, and they have, thank you. Thank you. You were so understanding, and you put yourself on the line, and you dealt with me, but in a good manner, in a way.
Yeah, I tried to stay professional, and I know one particular individual you're talking about, and I was really proud that this young man. I had lots and lots of problems with him when he was younger and in high school, and he presented a challenge in a law enforcement capacity. And I'll be honest, I wasn't as strong in my Christian walk as I am, or at least as I feel like I am today. But I still consider myself to be professional in my job and kind-hearted. And he graduated high school. He went on to get a good job, got married, had a couple of kids, and he reached out to me on Facebook, and was like that. He was very thankful. He said, "Thank you very much. I've grown up, and you showed a lot of sympathy to me, and you taught me a lot of things, and I appreciate you." Life. Yeah, and he appreciated me being firm yet fair, and that was always the role I tried to take. Was, I'll be your friend as long as you're doing right all day long, but there was a definitive black and white line, and when you cross that line, I also had a job that I had to do, and I would do it. And then I knew I didn't know. I had a good feeling you were going to bring something like that up. 2 weeks ago, apparently his wife left him, and so he's kind of relapsed, and now we've been dealing with him again, and I hate it. And so, it takes me right back, is what I'm doing, Then again, we talked about how with free will, I can't control it. So I just have to step back, and I have to have faith that God knows what he's doing. There's a reason that all of this is happening surrounding this individual. And the best that I can do is just have faith that God has a plan for him. I can make sure that I keep him in my daily prayers and hope that he just kind of comes full circle back around again to a time where he was doing well, and hopefully just bring his life back around. So you mentioned that, and my next thing in my notes was, to that one person on a call, though, you are making a difference, especially if you let your Christian values show through on your scene. It doesn't mean that you need to preach on scene. Actually, probably shouldn't be preaching on scene. There's a lot of agencies in a lot of cities that shy and frown upon that. So I'm not condoning that. I'm not promoting that. However, you can tell somebody when they say, "Hey, how's your day going?" "Hey, I'm blessed." You'd be amazed that the change in just that one answer, saying I'm blessed rather than I'm doing well or I'm having a good day, what that can let somebody know. Hey, I'm a Christian. Just something as simple as that, and it really will. So just your simple responses, but be polite to people. Reach out, ask them if there's anything that you can do. Genuinely care about what you're doing on scene. This Saturday, I know I called you at work because it was a crazy day. The last week and a half or so. I'm a corporal on our shift, and my sergeant has been out on vacation, so it's just been me and the guys. And my most experienced officer has about 2 years, 2.5, maybe 3 years total. And so it's a very, very young shift. And to top that off, we only have a certain number, and I have one that's been taken off in training, and we only have normally one officer above what our minimum staffing requirement is. So with that officer taking off because he's got training next week, I've been at minimum staffing. So I'm running my shift with just absolutely bare minimum, and it's been chaotic. But the other day we got a call of a 14-day-old child not breathing. And it's not fun. It's not. You're trying to get there, and the sheriff's department that night had already had a call where a young child passed away due to an accident. And so I know the dispatchers were already upset, and I'm sure that they were upset again now because this is an even younger child and this one's not breathing. Well, I pull up. I was the first one there. And when a mother runs out and she just throws this limp baby in your arms, expecting you to do something, your heart just kind of sinks because you absolutely want to help this baby, but at the same time, the mother freaking out doesn't help. And I absolutely 100% get why a mother's freaking out if her child's not, especially her 14-day-old child is not breathing. Luckily, as soon as I grabbed the child, I mean, she was still limp, but as soon as I held her up to my ear, I could hear her breath hitting my ear, and I could feel it against the side of my face. And so I pulled her back down, looked at her. She had great color. And right then, I really calmed down a whole lot. And my focus, EMS was only about 30 to 45 seconds behind me. So they were right there. But my attention turned to the mother because she was in such a panic. I was worried she was going to just have a panic attack and hyperventilate, and next thing I know, I'd have 2 people laid out. But you have to show some kind of sympathy. You're not always going to be that lucky, unfortunately, in this line of work. There's many times that you will show up, and the baby actually won't be breathing, and then you have to stop and think about. And one of my officers who showed up right after me before the ambulance did, and he was like, "Are you going to start CPR?" And I'm like, no, I'm absolutely not. The baby's breathing. The last thing I want to do is start pressing on an infant's chest when it didn't need to be. But he didn't know. All he saw was a completely limp baby. And, fortunately, everything that I heard past EMS taking the child, they did take her up to the hospital to check her out, but everything beyond that, I heard that she's doing great. So I was pretty fortunate in that. So if you've been reading your Bible, one of the craziest books that I know of is Ecclesiastes, and King Solomon was writing it, in almost the entire book of Ecclesiastes is talking about how insignificant really our lives are in the grand scheme of things. And does it really even make a difference in the end whether you're a good person or a bad person? And he goes on and on throughout all of Ecclesiastes about if I'm good, then I'm good. If I'm bad, then I'm bad. I'm not going to be remembered any better in one way than I am another way. I'm just going to end up in the ground dead. And you read that, and if you didn't know anything about Jesus Christ, then you would almost be like, man, this is kind of a depressing book. And then you have to think, that's Old Testament. And fortunately for us, God gave us his son, gave us Jesus Christ. And so we have a path to salvation where we know that beyond the grave there is something else now for us. So, yes, there absolutely is a reason. Unfortunately for King Solomon, prior to Jesus Christ, that was the days of sacrifices and everything else, and being cleansed and using priests to, pray for your sins and stuff like that. But we are fortunate that we can have a relationship with Jesus Christ, and we can be forgiven of our sins, and we know that there's life beyond the grave. You just have to be willing to have that relationship with God and with Jesus, and that's what's really important. So, anything? No. No, you sound like me before. So it's kind of difficult to maintain that positive outlook on life and the world around us, especially as law enforcement officers and firefighters and paramedics. Dispatchers, yeah. And like I said, Saturday night they just really got it hard, and I really feel so sorry for them, because I understand. I didn't get into dispatch Saturday night, but I understand early Sunday morning. But I understand that they were pretty upset, and just ladies, if y'all are watching this, just know I was praying for you while we were out there.
Not only that, truck drivers too. Not truck drivers, tow truck guys too.
Yeah, record drivers.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. But as police officers, nobody ever calls the police department whenever they're happy. I mean, we don't get called. I take that back. Sometimes we do get called to, like, hey, my son's having a birthday. Will you come drive by with your police car? And we absolutely love that kind of stuff. There's some old
positive things.
Yeah, there's some old salty guys who are like, I don't want to drive by there, and it's like, come on now. But let's face it, people call when they're at their worst. They call the police department when they're at their worst times and when they need something. We have to live with the bad things that we see at work. There is no escaping it. The sheriff's department, those guys, Saturday night, when they're called with their young child, who unfortunately did not make it, they got on scene. They too beat EMS on scene, and they did do CPR on theirs because their child that they had responded to their call, So it's very tough, and as a law enforcement officer, you're going to see things that you can't unsee, period. There's things that to this day, just sitting here talking to you right now, I can picture things in my head of things that I wish that I could unsee, but you can't. I don't want to go into great detail on it because, to be perfectly honest, it wouldn't serve any purpose. But you're gonna have to live with it, and that goes for everybody. But at the same time, what I really want to forget it. And I didn't think about this until I was putting together my notes for this episode, and I don't know that I would want to forget the things that I've seen either, because seeing those things, I think sometimes it makes me realize just how precious life is and how fragile it can be. I've also seen some things that they just astound me at how resilient human life can be too, because I've seen some people bounce back from things that I'm just like, wow, I did not expect to show up and that person be alive, and they are. So, but I don't think I would ever want to forget those experiences either, because it makes me more appreciative for what I do have and for human life. I know that if I place myself in that person's situation, it makes me realize, hey, at any moment at all, and just driving around in a patrol car and somebody runs a red light and T-bones my car. I mean, that could be it, So seeing these things and realizing that life is literally just the blink of an eye from possibly ending makes me understand, and it makes me realize that, yes, I need to have that relationship with God at all times. I have to be ready at any time to go and face the Lord. And I know some people in my life who are like, oh yeah, I'm going to do that, but I'm going to wait until this and this and this. Well, she's going to kill me, huh? Yeah. Because she'll probably watch this and she'll know who I'm talking about. But she's not the only one. I know quite a few people who are like that, and they're like, well, I just want to get these years out of my life, and I want to go and enjoy myself, and that's great. I mean, that's a great thought, providing you have 100% knowledge that you're going to wake up tomorrow or you're going to make it to tomorrow. And we just don't have that guarantee in life. And if all it means is saying, hey, I want to have a relationship, is playing that roulette game worth it? Is it worth gambling with eternity? We had a call Sunday night, or it was early Monday morning, that involved some juveniles, and one got shot. And again, I can't make an assumption whether someone's a believer or not, but based off of their actions and what they were doing at night, I would venture to guess that they're probably not pursuing that relationship. And one of them got shot. And I'm like, now had he died, it's like, that would be it. And we like to go to funerals and go, oh, they're in a better place now. And don't fool yourself. Just because you die doesn't mean you go to heaven. And I think we tell ourselves that a lot, but that's not the case. You truly have to have that relationship with God. And I don't know what happens immediately following death. I don't know if you die and in the first 30 minutes Jesus comes to you and talks to you and starts talking about all your sins and he gives you one less. I don't know. But what I do know is that if I can make that decision while I'm alive right now, then I don't have to worry about it. So seeing those things that you can't unsee at work just reaffirms my personal belief that, hey, I need to have this relationship with God right now. I need to have this relationship with Jesus and walk in faith right now, because I may not have the opportunity tomorrow or the next day. So, still no thoughts? The next part I got to was I wanted to talk a little bit, and I know you're going to be able to chime in on this one, Jamie. But difficulties in transitioning between life and work. So we work 12-hour shifts, and basically if you were to take the work week and break it down into blocks, you have a Monday, Tuesday block, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then we just alternate off, on, off, on, off, on. And so you get every other weekend off. But it's 12-hour shifts. And personally, I go in about an hour early every day. I go in so that I can talk to the outgoing sergeant and corporal, and they can kind of spin us up on whether they have anything going on. And also, I know that it's nice for them to get away from work a little bit early. And for the most part, the other shift that's on our card, they do the same thing. They'll show up about 5 o'clock rather than 6. And while I'm still doing 6 hours, I feel like I'm winning a little bit because I get to go home about an hour early. But there's, we never leave the shift without coverage, and there's always a supervisor on duty, and the admin knows we do it, and it's never an issue or anything like that. So, but when I get home, even at 5 o'clock, I don't come straight to bed. You have to decompress at the end of your shift. And it can take, depending on the type of shift that you have. I mean, if you had a bad night where you're getting calls, a baby's not breathing or juveniles getting shot and things like that, sometimes it can take a couple of hours to kind of calm down and to relax and try to let loose. And then by that time, you're ready for bed. About that time, that's when the adrenaline kind of wears off and you start to get tired and you can actually catch some sleep. For younger guys, it may be even longer than that, especially if they're not used to seeing some of the things. So it makes it very important because on your days that you work, you're either working, decompressing, or sleeping for the most part. There is no free time per se. You can try to make an hour, maybe 2 in your off time in between shifts, but it's not real easy. By the time you get up and you take a shower and you get ready, or you wake up in the morning. The morning for me, it's the midday.
Well, just like tonight, you will stay up.
Yeah, I'll probably stay up tonight.
2 to 3 o'clock in the morning.
Maybe even later that. I'm going to throw this video together and get it out.
And then I'm going to go to bed here probably after this video so I can get up and go to work. So, and even when he'll work Monday, Tuesday of this week, and then he'll be off. And so that first day, that Wednesday that he's off, he pretty much
sleep till about midday.
Sleep till 1 or 2 at the latest, and see if it was like a weekend, then, and I'm off on a Friday, it kind of like leaves us hanging because I'm having to wait on him to get up. So,
yeah, because you work 4/10s basically, so you're off Friday, Saturday, Sunday every week, and on my long weekends I work Thursday night until 6 a.m. Friday morning. So yeah, I'm asleep until 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
I mean, I can do my little errands here and there, but if we want to go and do something, I have to wait for him to get up. Yeah. So it kind of messes up our schedule. And a lot of times, I may not see him, especially on days when he goes back to days. He gets up at 4 o'clock in the morning, so he can be at work at 6. But he goes to bed with the chickens. At 8 o'clock, I'm like, "Are you going to bed?" He's like, "Yeah, I have to get up." So it's difficult at times because, I'm on a different shift than he is, and I'm wanting him to stay up with me a little bit later and, visit with me and do things, and he's ready to go to bed. And I understand why he's wanting to go to bed because he has to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. But that drives me to my next point was, what you do in your own time when you're off is extremely important as any member of public safety. Our rookies, and some of these guys need to, and I worked a lot, I don't know, I wouldn't say I worked a lot of extra jobs, but I worked extra jobs when I was younger. Even as I've gotten older, there's some jobs that I have worked, especially if I'm on night shift, I would work an extra job in the middle of the night here and there. But it was usually something that didn't interfere with our time together. So there would be a restaurant that might have an extra job and they were asking for security late at night. I would go work that from midnight to 4 or somewhere around in that time. But she's usually asleep. So it wouldn't take away from our time as a family and as a couple. But there's a lot of younger guys in law enforcement, and they look at society, and society tells them to be successful, you have to make a lot of money, and you have to be able to provide for your family, and you have to be able to, if you don't have a boat, then you're not doing good. If you don't have this giant side by side to go mudding in, and it all goes back to keeping up with the Joneses. And my neighbor over here, he's got a lot of cool toys, and it would be nice to have that, but I have my own things in life that I enjoy, and
His tools.
tools. I spend a lot of money on tools, and I like.
It helps me out.
Yeah. You look at the house, and it's like,
It's a win-win.
yeah, exactly. So, but those younger guys who are working tons and tons of extra jobs, if you look at their work schedule during the days that they do work, and then say they take 2 of their days off, and they work an extra job in the middle of the week on their days off. Well, now you're working 75% of your life. Well, you're not working, but you're in a state of work, decompression, or sleep for up to 75% or so of your entire life. And that's tough. That is extremely hard on a relationship and on a family. It's no wonder why law enforcement have some of the highest divorce rates out of any profession around. You can't, it's just not healthy to live your life where 75-80% of it is devoted to work. You're going to have to devote time to your family. So the whole work schedule as it is can be difficult for new couples, because if you, I guess we got married. I was already a cop, so you kind of knew what we were getting into, but you still didn't completely know until we actually got married and you moved in. Huh? So you haven't really known anything other.
No.
So
This is the life I chose.
Yeah. But if you think about it, if you have a young couple that neither one of them were in law enforcement, and they got married and they lived together 2-3 years, and then all of a sudden one of them goes to the police academy and gets a job, you're talking a complete lifestyle change. For her, it was just, okay, this is just how it is, and I wouldn't say, in a way, we're kind of fortunate about that. But if you're a young couple, especially a female who's about to marry a male police officer, or even vice versa, you need to understand, and I think Jamie will probably talk a lot on it, about that communication and the way that it's not normal between cops and wives. There's some things we want to talk about and some things that we don't, but I'm almost certain, I haven't looked at her notes, but I'm almost certain she probably has something about that written down, so I'm going to leave that for her. That decompression time is very important, and I have a lot more notes than what I thought I had here. That decompression time is very important. Okay, so I have found that you need to have some kind of sanctuary space. And I'm not talking, I need my safe space. And it's not that, okay? But whether it be home, a shop that you have, out on the tractor or the lawnmower, in the gym, etc., okay, find a place that is your sanctuary, something that you don't have to think about work at all. Now, the caveat to that is, if I say the gym, now keep in mind, if the gym is like you're going out to Anytime Fitness or 24-Hour Fitness, or here in town it's called there's an Ironworks gym. When you're in that place, you still may not be completely disassociated with the stress of being constantly alert for threats. You may not be able to completely decompress at the gym because you're still halfway wondering, okay, who walked in that door? Okay. I know when I'm out on the tractor and we're mowing the pasture, and when we mowed 20 acres. Was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday, 20 acres. We're out there mowing. I don't have to worry about anything, and that's my time. Just I can sit back in every time a cloud blows over and the breeze picks up, and it feels good for that 20 seconds because of the rest of the day it was 107. It felt like out there on that tractor, but for that 30 seconds when it blows over and it's just like it's nice. It's very peaceful. It's very relaxing. And that's where my stress disappears. And so with that, you need to find a hobby, some kind of work that's satisfying to you, kind of takes your mind off of work, preferably something non-stressing. And I say that because we've got coworkers, and even we have them, but we own cattle. Okay? So owning cows is great. Working cows, there's a meme floating around on Facebook that says, owning cows is wonderful, but if you've ever worked cows, then you know why we eat them. And it's the truth, because they can be extremely stubborn. We tried to load Winter up. One of my youngest daughter's
Ours are
scramble
pets.
heifers. Yeah, ours. We have a lot of pets because ours are scramble heifer calves that we've brought home over the years. But some of them are very stubborn, and when you're working with them or you're trying to load them up and trying to move them, it can be absolutely horrible. So if you're fine being stressed out with trying to work cattle on a large scale, then that's a great one. But find something that is non-stressful. Woodworking, welding, mowing, fishing, hunting, swimming. Whether it be leisurely or competitively, that can be very stressful though too. I don't usually consider going to the bars and drinking and stuff like that. I don't consider that really a healthy hobby. A lot of guys do it. Especially you younger guys. I know y'all love going out to the bars and having beers. And I'm not saying it's bad. It's just it's not as healthy as a lot of other hobbies that are out there. Especially if you have a habit of not controlling your intake, So you're still going to end up with the stressors of, do I have to worry about active shooter situations in a bar, because they do happen. It's even more stressful because you're not going to be armed. Well, you shouldn't be armed if you're drinking heavily in a bar, but that kind of goes without saying. So some of my personal stress relievers. And I put this one first because it's probably the most important, and that's reading. Reading my Bible. Reading my Bible is my time to build my relationship with God. And the reason I put that first is because it's the most important. I mean, we've already determined that we don't know if tomorrow. So that's first. And I guess one of the great things about it is I can do it anywhere. It doesn't have to be here. I can take it outside. I can take it in the shop. I can drive a mile down the road and sit in front of a 100-foot tall cross in the AC in my car and just have a majestic sight and read my Bible if I want to. Something else I enjoy doing is listening to music. Lately, I got into this high-resolution, high-quality audio kit. My wife, she's probably like, I'm so over it, But it does, and it's a time where I can relax. I don't listen to just straight Christian music. I do listen to a lot of Christian music, and I do love a lot of Christian music, and it's a good chance to do praise and worship. But I listen to other things. Now, I don't listen to, death metal and stuff like that, heavy metal. I don't know, whatever y'all call it. It just doesn't appeal to me. If you like it, then that's wonderful. Listen to what you want. I do enjoy mowing and working outside, just in general. Whether it be on a tractor or on the zero turn, usually the yard can always be mowed because she won't get on the zero turn. So it's like,
Oh, we'd eat.
she has a Cub
it a
Cadet
weed whacker.
wheeled trimmer, and she she loves that and my Milwaukee battery powered weed eater because it's easy for her to use. And so she loves to weed. I don't know if she loves it or not, but she weed eats and I mow. She kicked me off the tractor yesterday for a little while, but and that's my time of self-reflection and relaxation. Building projects around the house. Contrary to what she may think, I do enjoy it. Sometimes it just takes me a little while. And, it's like if a man says he's going to do it, he's going to do it. You don't have to remind him every 6 months, okay? So, but no, I do enjoy it.
That sign in the bathroom that's been sitting there.
Hey, I don't know what you're talking about. So I did look at that the other day, and I was like, I need to put that up. So one thing you're going to notice, moving on to the next part of my notes, was when you get into law enforcement, and I don't think this is quite as true for paramedics and firefighters, but when you get into law enforcement, we all have social circles in which we associate with people. And when you get into law enforcement, you're going to see that social circle shrink in size. And you're going to find that people in general, and like open social events where you go to a wedding and there's just people from all over the place, a lot of people have very little in common with you. They haven't seen what you have. They haven't experienced what you have. And it just makes it kind of hard sometimes to associate with them. So you'll see a lot of police families as a result stick together. And especially if you have police families who are close to the same age and end up having children that are close to the same age, you'll see those families, those police families, get really, really tight. And, sometimes people are like, oh, the blue law enforcement, it's just a giant gang and this and that. It's not that we're a gang, okay? It's just that there's so few people who have seen what we've seen, and there's so few wives that have to adapt to that lifestyle that normal people just don't understand, and they just don't get it. So yes, we are a family, but that's what it is. We're a family. We're not a gang. They aren't in the group, and they can't comprehend what the group goes through. So they just don't understand. And I think that's why you see so many military personnel, especially when they get out, that they fit in with law enforcement real easily, because we may not have seen it in Afghanistan. I saw a lot in Afghanistan when I was there, but law enforcement officers in general may not have been overseas in the military, but we see things here that are very closely related to what our soldiers are seeing overseas. Maybe not on the scale and frequency as them, but we have seen it and we do understand. So I think that's why you see a lot of military, when they leave the military, come over to the law enforcement side or the firefighting. And it's because they're a little bit familiar and we're familiar with it, and that bond is kind of already there. You're laughing because you saw that next part of my notes, huh?
Yes.
So,
because I have that.
Yeah, I know you do. So you're going to be able to chime in here. Okay, so the next part of my notes, and I have it on the screen here, and so she was looking at it, and I caught her giggling. And so police wives know that their husbands will not sit in public with their back to the door. We will not do it. And I know she's laughing because the next line in my note says that sometimes she will try to do it on purpose just to start a little argument. Now, not like a serious argument, but she'll go over there and she'll sit down in my seat because it's my seat and she knows it, and she will sit there and she'll just look at me like, what are you going to do type thing. And I will just stand there until she gets out of my chair. And used to be, and this is what's funny, is because she has adapted since we've gotten married. Used to be, she would sit directly across from me with her back to the door. She won't do it anymore. I have caught her. I'm going to say it's probably been the last 5 years or so, where she will sit next to me where she can also see the door rather than sitting with her back to the door directly across from
I
me.
sit in a booth right next to you because my
Yes. Yep. She will either sit, if we're at a table, she'll either sit at the chair right next to me, or if we're at a booth, she'll sit on the same side as me. And it's kind of weird sitting in a booth, but I find that it's rubbing off on her. And it's not that, we're not saying, oh, that's just my chair and I'm just trying to be a jerk, but she understands why. She knows why. And apparently she understands the importance of it, and she even wants to think that way as well. So,
and also, like, when he is on duty and we are out, we will not usually sit in a booth because he is in uniform. It's harder to get out, squeeze between the booth and the table. So the table and chairs are a must.
yeah, table and chairs. It's
Especially
easy to,
in a uniform.
Yeah, it's easy to stand up very quickly and just kick that chair out of the way and be completely available to do work if necessary. Whereas a booth, just think about it. You ever go to a restaurant and never see cops sitting in a booth? You won't see it because it's just not safe. But these are things that normal families don't have to think about. Normal families don't have to have a conversation of, okay, we're going to the mall today. If we hear gunshots, does everybody know what they're going to do? Normal families don't have that conversation. But when we're out, officers are usually armed. They have a duty to respond. And they're going to respond. Well, that means leaving my wife and kids. They have to know what their responsibilities are, their plans are, and what they're going to do.
And that's like...
She automatically knows when she calls 911, if I'm there and I'm on scene, that she needs to let them know that there's an off-duty officer on scene, and she needs to be well aware of what it is that I'm wearing so that she can pass it on to the dispatcher, who will then pass it on to the responding officers. But like I said, these are not...
Not only that, we talked about when you were in the school district, when he was a resource officer, and we went to the convention that one year, and we talked about active shooters, for instance, and we went to different churches, and we talked about the active shooter situation, what the plans are with the officers and the teachers and whatnot. And we told our girls, because our girls were in the high school when he was a resource officer. And if there was an active shooter there and they did get shot, for instance, David would not, foresee them, he would have to step over their bodies and do his job. Would anybody want to do that? A cop versus just a regular human being? No. But we told our girls, he has a job. He has to save other people.
That was absolutely probably the biggest fear that I ever had as a possibility when it came to doing this job. I was the school resource officer at the high school here in our town, and both of my girls, who were a year apart in school, were at the high school as students while I was there as the courtesy officer. As a school resource officer. I'm thinking of when I was a courtesy officer at an apartment complex we lived at, but as a school resource officer. And while on one hand it was great getting to see my daughters every day while I was at work, my absolute biggest fear was that there was an active shooter situation and one of them ended up hurt, laying on the ground, bleeding out in a hallway while the shooting is still going on, and I cannot stop to take care of my own kid. To this day, it still upsets me to even think that, and they're not even in school. So, yes, if you don't think that that's something that will mess with your head and mess with your mind, it absolutely does. And that, like I said, that was probably my biggest fear ever. But at the same time, my idea was, while I know we have a ton of great qualified officers at our department, I knew that if it did happen, I could absolutely be the one to do something about it. I knew how I felt like I would act if that situation came up. And so that's why I did it. But yeah, that was probably my most stressful. So finally, I think it's very important, and I probably stretched way on, but I think it's very important that we find comfort in the Lord on a personal level. When you do, if I have comfort in the Lord while I'm doing my job or while I'm in my personal life, then I'm going to have comfort while I'm at work. And in 2 Corinthians chapter 1 verses 3 through 5, it says, "All praise to God, the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. God is our merciful Father and the source of all comfort. He comforts us in all our troubles so that we can comfort others. When they are troubled, we will be able to give them the same comfort God has given us. For the more we suffer from Christ, the more God will shower us with his comfort through Christ." So it all comes back to doing God's work and doing his will. And if we don't have that personal relationship, and if he hasn't comforted us, then we're not going to be able to be there for other people 100%. So I really think that that's the most important thing, which is one of the reasons I put reading my Bible and having that relationship is probably one of my number one things on my lists of ways to decompress. I'm going to turn it over to you because I'm sure you have a lot as well.
So, mainly the three things I'm going to talk about and hit on is finding peace, worrying, and faith. And we, as wives, we worry about our husbands. That is a law enforcement, worrying if he's going to be okay. If you're going to get a phone call in the middle of the night that he got hurt or killed in line of duty, or if he shot somebody, if we're going to get sued. And then you worry about the shift work, working at night, overtime, extra jobs, missing out on the kids' stuff. I wouldn't say David missed out on a lot of the kids' stuff, being a police officer, per se. That was more...
Yeah, I did enough of that overseas.
Well, no, it was more when he was a volunteer firefighter. He volunteered at the fire department, and so we would have a birthday party for one of the girls, maybe their first birthday or their second birthday, and they would get a main alarm. David would go and like, this is your kid's first birthday party or the second one. So missing out on the kids' activities. And then mood swings. No, I'm not saying that he has ever been verbally or physically abusive, just moody. You can tell when he comes in if he's had a good day or bad day just by his presence. Body language, like as anybody. I mean, you can tell from somebody's body language what kind of mood they're going to be in. So
I think it was probably a lot worse when I was younger
yes,
and earlier on as an officer. I didn't, because like a lot of the young officers now, we get trained on how to be cops in the academy. But I think now there's a lot more as far as a lot more classes and training as far as dealing with stress and whatnot. But when I went through 24 years ago through the police academy, we didn't have a lot of that. There wasn't a big concern or emphasis on mental health for officers, and so I had to learn the hard way. And unfortunately, you were there as I was trying to do it. And now I think it's gotten a lot better. Even here recently with as we do this, and we both kind of taken the task of trying to read through the Bible completely and whatnot, and I think it's helped out a lot, even more so.
and then being a cop, he becomes a different person than when he was before. And what I'm talking about, more reserve, more watching his P's and Q's, watching his surroundings, selective of where we go. And we talked about sitting in a restaurant where he sits, and then
Do you want to talk about, like, you say selective about where we go? It's kind of crazy because
even
I won't lie. I don't like huge crowds. I don't. It's not that I'm scared in a huge crowd. It's just one of those things. If you think about it, active shooter situations happen at events with large crowds, and it's so hard to respond to those situations. And it's more so of, if I don't have to put myself there, then I won't. Now, that's not to say we won't go. We went to a Matthew West concert down in Houston not too long ago, completely packed. We went to what was the comedy night down in, was it in Humble?
mm-hmm.
And it was packed. And
we've
we're
gone to concerts. We've gone to a country western singer. I can't remember his name at a pavilion, and so I mean it was.
Yeah, I just prefer not to if I don't have to, but I feel, especially, it was funny, we went to Matthew West and we walk in, and one of my coworkers, we had no idea that he was going to be there, but it comforts me in knowing that, hey, there's a cop I know sitting 3 rows away from me. So that was a good feeling.
And not selective, like just in places like that, selective of where we go out to eat, also in uniform and outside of uniform, because he has had run-ins with people that have run the restaurant, or workers that have been in the restaurant that he has maybe arrested or whatnot, and we won't go there because of that. So in that sense, we're selective where we go. And then especially after we had kids, a lot more changed, more strict, more cautious, because now we have 2 precious little girls at that time, and we got more.
They're not precious anymore. No, I know what you mean.
But I'm not saying, I will say baggage, but not baggage in a bad way.
It's a responsibility.
Yeah, responsibility, but we have more to lug with us if something were to happen, of getting them out in a bad situation. So just stuff like that. And then I'm going to talk about, like, one of our stories. He probably doesn't remember this, but I do. You got to have faith. And that was one, going undercover, going to a bar, working undercover. And when you're a nice young looking man and
Not anymore.
a girl at the bar hits on your husband, and he did come home and tell me, and I wouldn't say at that time it really bothered me, but
My gosh, that's been a long time ago. I'd forgotten
and
all
I
about
don't
that.
even know if we were married at that time. We may have been engaged. I have no idea, but this is way before we had kids. But I know it would probably have bothered some people, other wives, other couples, but I had trust, I had faith in him, and he was honest with me. He came home and said, hey, or maybe he told me before he went, hey, this is what I'm going to do. So be honest of what you're doing. If you can tell your wife, hey, this is what's going to happen, and they're, and I know, for instance,
If I remember correctly, that was just some underage stuff, and I was the officer who was just in the bar with the underage minor who was attempting to buy alcohol, if I remember correctly. I don't even remember, but yeah.
yeah, and I know, and it could be situations like locations, strip club. I mean, your husband can go undercover. Not him; he didn't do this, but
have any of those, yeah.
there could be a situation that your husband may go undercover at a strip club. Be honest with your wife. Just say, hey, this is what I'm going to do. You just got to have faith and trust that, this is his job. This is what he's got to do. And just rely on trusting him.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to talk about communication. Kind of going back, conversation. You want to talk about his day along with yours. He doesn't want to talk about his because he wants to be home, not talking about work or something he had to deal with or see that isn't pleasant, sad, or uncomfortable to talk about. So you got to understand, like I said back in one of the other podcasts, there's a lot of times that you do not want to communicate.
Yeah, I think for a spouse, you have to understand that if your husband comes home and if he's in any public safety and he comes home and he's just like, the wife asks, well, how's your day? Or the husband, if it's a female, asks, how's your day? Or how was your day? And you're just like, yeah, I'd just rather not talk about it. If you're the spouse, just kind of leave it at that for right now. When they calm down or when they kind of decompress a little bit, if they want to talk about it, then they will. Just don't keep prying. We'll go, well, what's wrong? Well, tell me about it. Well, what's wrong? Chances are they don't want to relive it, especially not right then. Rather than asking specifically, well, what happened? What's going on? Rather than doing it that way, just say, hey, look, when you're ready to talk about it, I'm here. I'll listen to you. It means a lot more to be there and be available to hear it when they're ready to release it than to necessarily try to pry it out of them. Otherwise, it's just cops don't deal well with people who want to try to pry at them a whole lot.
And then talking about going out to eat, there might be times that y'all are eating just you and him alone while he's on duty, or you're eating with him and his officers while they're on duty. Just know that there might be times that he orders his food and they get a call and you're sitting there by yourself.
Might be times it happens a lot.
So there's a lot of times that, you'll be left alone at a restaurant eating. So you got to understand that aspect of it. Being okay of not eating with your husband a lot of times.
And even so with my agency, we're supposed to get an hour for lunch. So we are supposed to be able to check out and be uninterrupted for our lunch break. On our shift, at least, most of the guys are understanding, and we don't check out for lunch. We don't check out unavailable. Sometimes, some places it gets abused, and people are like wanting to wait and save their lunch hour until right up towards the end of shift, and then they're checking out unavailable, and it's kind of screwing the rest of the guys over because they're having to catch all these calls. So we just don't check out for lunch, and we just never have. And even though it's our right, we're not putting in for overtime, and because we just understand we just need to be available for calls. And sometimes, like if I haven't seen her for a while, I will check out, but I'll let the guys know, hey, my wife's coming into town. I'm going to go eat with her, and I'm going to check out and go eat with her. And so sometimes I'll do that, but
we don't.
Usually not. Yeah.
We usually don't eat together anymore. He's doing his thing at work, and I'm coming home, and I have things to do here at the house. So
clean that house.
So every once in a while we do, but that was more way back when we were younger. And it used to bother me, but, I understand now. And not just now, but...
It only took you 20 years.
And then you got to understand that when he's on nights and you're working days, you don't see each other very often. I would say on night shift, I don't see you very often. Days, I see you more. In the evenings for a couple of hours before you go to bed at 8 o'clock in the night.
On the days that I work, because.
But even on nights, he likes to stay on his night shift. On his days off, he likes to stay up, and.
Well, yeah, you're just in a sleep pattern.
Yeah, and he doesn't want to mess up that schedule.
Yeah, when you're 46 years old, when I was 20, I could bounce back and forth between sleep patterns all day long. It didn't bother me. I'm an old guy now, and it's not so easy to do that. So on my days off or nights off, however you want to say it, I do try to somewhat. Now, last night I did not. We
were tired.
We got out and mowed the pasture and out at the lease and stuff, and we were both just beat down tired, and so tonight's going to be a long night. I will struggle to stay up late tonight, but if the later I stay up and fight to stay up, then I can sleep in the morning, and I will be asleep when you get up to leave to go to work. And
no, he will not be up when I go to work.
No, I said I will be asleep when you get up to go to work, and then I will be gone by the time you get home. Mm-hmm. And so. And then I will be back home and in bed when you get up to go to work. Yeah, so on days that I work, we really don't see each other except in passing. So it can be difficult.
And then he talked a little bit on extra jobs. And for instance, cops don't make a lot of money. So a lot of times they have to pick up the extra jobs.
Especially early in their career.
To make ends meet, and sometimes to live beyond your means, you do have to pick up those extra jobs.
Yeah. Like I said, especially early in your career, because you may be at the bottom end of the pay scale, so you're not making a lot of money. And unfortunately, that's the same time that a lot of these guys are starting their relationships, or when they and their spouse are just engaged or just starting a family. So that's the toughest time all the way around. Now I'm pretty much at the top of my pay scale.
And sometimes I'm asking, why did you sign up for that extra job? Yeah. I'm like, David, sign up for it. And he's like, oh.
It's kind of crazy because now we're at a point in our life where I don't need extra jobs to survive, or we didn't really need them to survive before, but even less so now. And now the kids are out of the house, so it's just unfortunate, but that's just how it works.
So So some of this stuff used to bother me as, when we were younger and just starting off. But I don't worry about it as much as I used to. Like if he's going to get hurt or killed was the hardest thing I had to deal with. Not having him at home at night, sleeping right beside me. I would stay up all night waiting until he came home. And I remember one night, and I can't remember the officer. It had to be like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, maybe 4. And David stopped by with this officer. I want to say it was McGann. I don't remember. But I was cleaning the floor with a toothbrush. And McGann was like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm cleaning the house." He's like, "With a toothbrush?" So that was my way of, my stress relief, because I was worried, was I going to get a phone call in the middle of the night, or, when was he going to get home? So that was kind of my stress relief.
Now she just don't care.
No, I was just joking. But they, it got old very quick. My body couldn't handle it anymore. I have had many people used to say, and still say now, aren't you worried about your husband being a cop, about him getting hurt or killed? And I just look at them and I just tell them, it's when it's his time to go, it's his time to go. And that could be him being in uniform, killed in the line of duty, or it could be him out on the streets, driving his car or walking down the sidewalk and somebody hit him. When it's his time to go, it's his time to go, and it's not going to stop him one way or the other.
I went to grab hamburger buns yesterday. I mean, it could have happened on my way into town on my day off. You never know.
So I'm going to read a few scriptures. One of the first passages I'm going to be in is Isaiah 26, 3 through 4. God will keep you in perfect peace, all who trust in you, and those whose thoughts are fixed on you. Trust in the Lord always, for the Lord God is the eternal rock. And then I'm going to go to John 14, 1. Do not let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God and also in me. And then 14, 27. I am leaving you with a gift, peace of mind and heart. And the peace I give is a gift of the world can't give. So don't be troubled or afraid. And basically, God's just telling you, He's giving you His peace, and only God that you can get peace is through Him. And then I'm going to go to Matthew. Kind of back to what I talked about on the last podcast. Matthew 6:27. Can all your worries add a single moment to your life? And then Matthew 6:34. So don't worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will bring its own worries. Today's troubles are enough for today. So, you just got to give it to God and let Him take your worries away.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all out of our hands anyways.
Easier said than done. It's, a lot of times.
Yeah, it's funny. You're reading it, but sometimes you have the hardest time doing that too.
And then I'm going to go to Mark 11, 22 through 24. Have faith in God. I tell you the truth. You can say to this mountain, maybe you be lifted up and thrown into the sea, and it will happen. But if you must really believe in what will happen and have no doubt in your heart, I tell you, you can pray for anything, and if you believe that you've received it, it will be yours. And, God will always make a way.
Yep. So, I guess in closing, public safety families are not like any other families in the world. And I don't mean it in a negative way. I'm not trying to imply that, we're better than anyone else. We're not, absolutely not. But we are very different. And to be perfectly honest, it's just not easy, and 24 years of doing this, we've kind of got it figured out. But when I picked this topic, I actually picked one this time, not Jamie. But when I picked it, it was because I wanted to get something out there especially for the younger couples that, some of us have been around a while and we've pretty much got it figured out. I'm not saying we're perfect, but it's not easy. And if y'all need anything, reach out to us and we can definitely try to help you out. But I don't know. I think having that good relationship with the Lord is extremely important, because He is going to comfort you. And when you go to work knowing that if something bad happens to you, it doesn't matter, because you are secured in where you're going to go, then it's one less thing that you got to worry about. Because I would hate to have the feeling of, well, I think I'm a good person, I think I'll go to heaven. Going to work with that I think attitude of where you would go or what would happen to you if something bad happened, that's tough for me. So have that relationship with Christ, know what's going to happen with you, and that takes the biggest what if off of the table, and you will be much more stress-free, I promise you. So, anything else?
Mm.
All right. Father God, we love you and we thank you. We just ask that anyone who's watching this tonight or has watched any portion of it tonight, we just ask that you, especially if they're fighting with insecurities or unknowns or struggling to have that relationship with you, we just ask that you open your arms wide, which you always have, and you always will have your arms open wide for them, but give them the strength and the comfort to reach back out to you and to come to you and to open themselves up to have that relationship with you, so that they will have no doubt in their mind or in their life and in their heart on what their final destiny is, and the fact that they will be seated next to you at some point. We just ask that you watch over all of our public safety friends, whether it be fire, EMS, tow service, dispatchers, law enforcement, it doesn't matter. Any aspect of the public safety, we just ask that you just spread your arms across them and keep them safe on their day-to-day lives, and keep them safe while they're at work. And even more importantly, keep their minds fresh and give them comfort if there's things that they're struggling with and things that they've seen that are particularly bothering to them. We ask that you watch after their families and give them understanding of what it takes and to survive the relationship, the very unique relationship that their families are based upon. And it can be done, but it has to start with you. We understand that. And we just want to say thank you for everything that we have, because without you, we would have nothing. And it's in your precious name we pray. Amen. All right. We hope y'all have a good night, and we probably stretched this one out, but we hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.